Okay, let's get started. So again, my name is Randy Eager. I'm the co-founder, CEO of Silisium Tech. We're a Carnegie Mellon spinoff. Can everyone see my screens?
Looking good. Take it away.
Okay, good. Carnegie Mellon spinoff, and we're focused completely on rebuilding the U.S. Solar supply chain. And we're doing that by actually building and selling silicon wafers as well as solar cells. Our unfair advantage here is that we can do this and be able to reduce costs, cut costs in half, and actually reduce the CO2 emitted during construction or production in half as well. Our CTO emeritus faculty member, Eric Yitzi, has been working on this for the last 10 years, thanks to $5 million in funding and doing this at CMU. So as we're moving out, let's jump into the presentation. So really this advantage of ours is thanks to a continuous process. Maybe bring you up to speed if you're not quite familiar with solar panels or modules. We start with polysilicon. Anybody who makes wafers starts with polysilicon, produce wafers. Those wafers are used as base material for cells. Many cells are combined together to create a module. In the US, as strange as it may seem, there is not a single manufacturer of wafers or cells in the US today. So this is the market opportunity for us. We do this on a continuous process instead of the today manual two-step process that is much more difficult. So looking at the market, if you would focus on the left side first, silicon wafers and cells. This whole chart is based on current manufacturing capabilities as well as expansion and announcements of new material, of new processes going on. You can see that there's zero last year and this year for silicon wafers and cells, but there have been some companies that have announced. The 13 is in gigawatts, so it's the production. Every gigawatt here that you're looking at is about 200 million cells, 200 million wafers or cells. So now moving to the right, again, this is all US data. So you can see the blue charts are representing the number in gigawatts of how many how much production is being done. And the red line is the amount of demand that's forecasted for the US. So even with all of this new production coming in online, we're still not reaching that point. The overriding point here for the slide is that you can see this huge mismatch between wafers and cells produced in the US and volume of manufacturing. So this inherently is our opportunity. So a little bit more about the process. The current process is, if you can see the picture here, this is silicon production, very large big piece of machinery here, lots of vertical pulling and action to produce it. But basically, the reason there's so much material wasted is a cylinder has to be turned into squares. So a lot of material lost there. Where we do it on a continuous process, we produce exactly the amount of material, width and thickness that's needed, and cut it to the right length. So why is now the time to do this? Incredible tailwinds for us from European energy crisis, which most of you are feeling directly. China is out of favor. There's tariffs and unfair labor practices that are being legislated against.
1 minute warning.
For us in the US, though, it is definitely the Inflation Reduction Act as having the largest impact. The team pulling this together is myself. This is my fifth spinoff from Carnegie Mellon. 2 exits. The other 2 are still in process, seed stage. really formative years for me were in BASF. I actually spent time in Ludwigshafen in Germany. Enjoyed that time, but the last 20, 25 years for me have been in and around startups on the investor side, as well as playing other roles. Eric is our faculty member and process control expert. He's actually taking
Time is up.
built polysilicon plants.
How much are you guys looking to raise?
So we're looking to raise 500, and the first 100 has been circled.
Okay, quick question while I bring the other investors in. You've got 2 exits and they're both seed stage, which means there wasn't a big outcome.
Sorry, I went too quickly. They weren't big outcomes, but they were sold, I would say, post A. The other 2 that are still operating are at seed stage and have just closed on seed rounds.
Are those companies you invested in or companies you run?
Co-founder, small investment, co-founder, board member, and advisor. So an hour a week, advising at this point.
As a co-founder?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. I would say that's probably going to be something. I don't know if you've gotten pushback from other investors on that.
I haven't yet, but again, it's an hour a week.
Mm-hmm.
So they have, both of them have 8. One has 10, a team of 10, and the other is 6 people.
Okay, so you've really pulled yourself completely.
I have
out.
completely, literally, and it's an hour a week on these 2. I enjoy one is working on a whole new way to make cement, and the other is another material. So all the companies I've been doing are materials companies, thanks to that BASF experience.
Mm-hmm. Why did you get excited about Silisium?
Why am I excited? So I've been doing lots of these things. I have lots of choices of the things I can be doing in the world. And this definitely gets me out of bed every day. I love the opportunity. I mean, as an entrepreneur, who doesn't love the opportunity to completely change and improve an entire industry? So I am completely geeked about doing that and love materials. These guys I'm working with, who I didn't get to, are all really seasoned veterans. And again, I've done this quite a few times, and having this quality, this great of a team this early has been unusual for me.
Then what's the biggest weakness of your team?
I would say if there's a weakness, there's not enough of us at this point. The weakness probably is we're still within the university, and we need to raise a little more capital to hire the right engineering. We're on version 2 of this machine. Doing this, we need to iterate at least 1 more, maybe 2 more times. So we do need more engineering firepower.
What's the IP status with Carnegie Mellon?
Turns out I spent almost 5 years in the tech transfer office a long time ago. So this is how all of these things have happened. I've gotten to know so many faculty and staff there, of course, over the years. But 2 patents, both licensed worldwide, exclusively, and we do have an incubation agreement, so we can be on campus and maintain and own all the IP that we generate there.
How much equity do they have then?
They have 10.5%.
Ooh, that's a lot.
It is high, but it was managed. So there's it's a bit of a story, but it's a standard spinoff license. I don't think there are any other universities that do this. So it's a formula. 6% is for an exclusive. We deferred patent fees and a couple years incubating. So that adds up to, and there are inventors that didn't go along with the company. So they do get a little bit of equity as part of the license deal.
Okay, understood. Juliana, you want to go first or second?
Sure.
Or whatever?
Yeah, whatever works. Well, Randy, really impressive that you've had multiple exits. It's always tricky, I think, for founders to be able to scale businesses, perform, and exit the businesses. So really impressive, and tech transfer is always tricky as well, but it seems like you've kind of figured out a nice strategy. So the first thing I just wanted to ask is, maybe you can kind of talk through some of your traction to date, and some of your customers that you've been working with thus far.
Sure.
Which I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we're really at the LOI stage. So we are probably, I would say, a year and a half away from something that a full size wafer and cell that we can put in front of somebody to start doing their own internal testing and qualification. So we're at the LOI process and still doing some discovery. So we are early. We are pre-seed. We're perfect for forward. Because that really is the focus for us at the accelerator level, is to nail some more customer discovery and to start stacking up these LOIs. The few people that I've spoken to already, this has been a wonderful discussion. Everybody is pretty much the same so far, saying, "What the hell's taking you so long? We're willing to pay a premium. Just please produce." So we're getting really, it's early, but so far we've been welcomed with open arms.
Wonderful. And then are you guys producing, I'm assuming at a co-manufacturer at this stage, or in-house, or kind of what's your scale up?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, at this point, we're going to do the crazy thing, which is build custom equipment and put 250 of them in a plant and go for it. We're estimating right now about 35,000 a piece for these equipment. So this is not, this is a second meeting to go deep into how we do it, but there is, so 2 patents already, but there's plenty of trade secret here as well. So we plan to use that and to build a plant. As a group, we're builders, so this is what interests us. And if we're being honest, it is easily the best way to get a better return for our shareholders. So
wonderful. And then you guys have experience, scaling up in terms of doing manufacturing in-house. Is that right?
Yeah, I've done this within BASF. My role here, if it isn't obvious, I'm the external person. I'm the sales and marketing guy. Engineering undergrad, MBA, but I'm the external guy. Everybody else is very technical. I'm the guy that tries to translate all that and land the LOIs and future customers and partners. So where we have started, since Eric has built polysilicon plants, he has friends that have all this great experience and are in the polysilicon plant, US polysilicon business units. So this is where we pretty much started because supply chain is super important, of course, throughout this whole thing. So that's where we started. Not sure I answered your whole question there.
Nope, that was great. I'm going to pass it on so I don't take up all the questions. I'll pass it over to Niels.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, Randy. I think one of the questions I didn't quite get was, you said there's no one doing this in the US. Are people doing something similar elsewhere, and how important is this market? Like, can it not be a global market, or what else differentiates you from the international competition, if there's any?
Yeah, today, apologize if that didn't come clear. Today, the people that are producing here in the US, there are module manufacturers in the US, you saw on those charts. They are importing cells. So somebody produces wafers. I guess this isn't terribly well known. 98% of all wafers today are produced by 4 companies in China. So they do sell to other folks who are making cells. Some module companies have backward integrated into making their own cells, but they buy wafers. In the US, people buy completed cells and have those shipped. So,
is your benefit then? Is it like a geopolitical benefit that you're bringing, or is there like an economic benefit to producing in the US as well?
Yeah, the exciting part for us is that it's both. So our continuous process cuts costs in half. regardless of where your plant is situated. And the second is it is the geopolitical with the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, and all the incentives. Didn't have time to talk about this, but the incentive for us as a wafer and cell manufacturer is $12 per square meter. This actually turns out, because our process is pretty straightforward, it turns out to be about 30% of our costs. So this is a huge incentive. The module manufacturers also have incentive, not as large, but they do have incentives in place thanks to the IRA to purchase a U.S. domestic source.
And then I got to ask, as a German, how reliant is your business model on that incentive? I'm not sure, you're probably familiar with how Germany subsidized a huge solar industry. It went big, then they stopped, and it completely faltered overnight. So yeah, tell us to your unit economics, maybe.
Yeah, I hesitate to talk about the IRA because that is the exact question that comes up every single time. Can this business stand on its own? And absolutely, the financials, we can dig back in, but the financials, this is a real business with or without the IRA. The IRA makes it amazingly profitable, but this is a real profitable actual business regardless. We can grow faster with the IRA, of course.
But do you have any numbers, or is it too soon for that?
We have, of course, I wouldn't be much of a guy. So high level, we see we're about 75 million in revenue in 27, with 6 or 7 million in bottom line in net profits, net operating income. So we think revenue should begin in the end of 24 and ramp to 26, and then we'll continue ramping, but we should be in 26 up to a full factory. The way the financials are created, it gives us more of a ramp. Don't raise 50, 60 million at one time, but do it gradually over time. So we see it as a real business, and we are excited about doing this.
Why manufacture yourself versus going the contract manufacturer route?
Again, it's custom pieces of equipment that are somewhat full of our own IP, trade secrets, and we think keeping control of that brings more value in the end.
Could you elaborate the trade secret or the secret sauce a bit more? I'm especially curious because 50% cost reduction, that's amazing. I mean, that would be a game changer, I think, for the whole industry. Very cool to see that, and I hope that's feasible.
Too.
What's the secret sauce behind it?
Okay, if you want, we can get into this. So it's been really since the 80s, earliest one actually in the 60s, but in the 80s, let me step back just a little bit. It makes no sense whatsoever for the solar industry to be using round boules, as they're called, to make solar panels. These are, 50, 60 years ago, maybe even longer, those were created for the chip industry. The chip industry uses round wafers because of dynamics, all kinds of reasons. They use round wafers. And this process that we start with in the solar industry produces that same round profile or cylinder, I should say. So that this is a complete hangover for the industry. So the requirements, so probably one question is, why aren't you selling and working in the chip industry? The hurdle or the bar is much lower in the solar industry from a purity and material composition perspective. So we can enter that market much sooner. And it makes no sense to start with a cylinder and cut all four sides and then cut it like a loaf of bread to produce rectangles. It makes no sense. So back in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a significant push by many companies to do this back then. Eric spent, and it never worked. So Eric spent these 10 years, our CTO, Eric Yitzi, spent 10 years with that assumption that this doesn't work, and why not? So he identified 3 things that are cause that. Really rather not talk about this in a very public setting. So if you'd like to really talk about this, we can do that. But he has identified. Sorry to be so cagey,
No,
but
absolutely makes sense. Yeah. No, general picture was already very helpful, because I totally believe in the idea, and I think silicium is I think 99% or something is sourced from one country in the world, and there's a lot of dependency, and I think that's whatever helps to make solar bigger is very much needed. Follow-up question on that: is your process restricted on one or on a few cell types, or can you change that depending on the customer?
Yeah, that's the plan, is to be part of customer discovery is also working on the requirements for the products. So there will be multiple sizes. There will be multiple other things, PN versions. Most of the big variety comes on the cell side, but yes, we do expect to meet customer requirements and produce multiple types of silicon. Absolutely.
Last question from my end. Do you have a strategy on how to finance the production assets that you will need to build up?
We have a strategy. Time will tell if that strategy makes any sense or not. But so there are a whole lot of leasing options. There's some extremely creative companies there now, at least in the US, not sure about the rest of the world. So they will take some equity. They're very creative. So I suspect we may do some creative financing to get to this point. But the reason we want to do this slowly is we, of course, need proof that it works above one machine. So there's a pace of producing multiple machines of some quantity to prove that we can do this and produce and sell very specific products. So it's a phased approach and possibly some creative financing.
What's the biggest risk you see in the business?
For us, the hands down, the biggest risk is to make sure that we can pull the wafer. Think of it like a float glass. If you're familiar with the PPG or the way they make glass, same kind of thing. Glass, as it hardens, floats, it turns out. Polysilicon, as it melts and hardens, floats also. So we are pulling it horizontally. So the rate at which we pull it is absolutely the most important aspect of this from a technical perspective.
And did you say what TRL status you're at?
We believe it's a 4.
Okay.